For students of the JFK assassination, we've got a double header today. I'm joined right now by Judyth Vary Baker. Judyth, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you. I hope the same for you.
Absolutely, and you're one of my all-time favorite guests, Judyth. In addition to being such a polite and lovely person, you have one of the most fascinating stories I've ever heard. You are the author of the book Me and Lee, which is the unbelievable but true story of your personal relationship with Lee Harvey Oswald that began after you took a position doing research with the legendary Dr. Alton Oschner at his Cancer Research Center at Tulane University in New Orleans in 1963. Can you give us a little bit of background, Judyth, perhaps for people who haven't seen you before?
Okay, well, we could start with the fact that I was quite young when I started cancer research. I was only 15, and by the time I was 18, I'd given lung cancer to mice using an aerosol containing carcinogenic materials from tobacco products in only 7 days, and they had not done that in any of the labs. So there were people who were interested who went to the lab, like Sir Robert Robinson, Nobel Prize winner in chemistry, along with we have Dr. Oschner, of course, came in from Oschner Clinic that he had just formed. So though he's at Tulane, had his own big clinic and hospital. Then there was also Dr. George Moore. And I'm naming these people because of their particular relationship to each other. Dr. George Moore was the director of the Roswell Park Institute in Buffalo, New York, and I would soon go there in the entire summer of 1963, where I was taught how to handle deadly viruses and cancer-causing viruses such as SV40 safely. Mm-hmm. So I had intense training from the best. Dr. Moore, the head of the entire institute. I spent the summer in his lab, his personal lab, and at that time we also worked on the RPMI 1640 formula. This is important because I was one of the few people, this is before the formula was given to the world, it grows cancer cells better than any other formula. And Wow. It's still being used today, many decades later. Now, I worked on two aspects of the formula and improved it, and I have the papers to prove it, and, working with him. So when I was invited to New Orleans, it wasn't just because I could handle deadly cancer viruses and other kinds of viruses, but also because I was one of the few people who had the recipe to grow cancer cells better than anybody else in the world, even though I was so young. I was only 19 when I arrived in New Orleans. The other person who was involved was Dr. Harold Deal. He was the vice president of the American Cancer Society, and he was in charge of all the research for the ACS and for the National Institute of Health and so on. So there were these doctors, and then finally Dr. Harold Urey, U-R-E-Y, he was from University of Chicago, and he was also a Nobel Prize winner. So these are the people who saw my projects and saw the work I did at Manatee High School in Bradenton, in a laboratory that had been moved under a stadium, because when they saw the big tumors and everything that the mice had, they were afraid to keep it in a school. So they moved it, made a laboratory for me under the stadium. So Wow. They visited all this and they shut it down. They said it was too dangerous. I was working with some cancer viruses that I was unaware of, Mm-hmm. And from then on, I had training for almost 2 years before I was finally sent to New Orleans. Mm-hmm. So it's not like enemies of mine are trying to disparage this, say things like, she claims she went straight from high school, she was with the CIA. I was unwitting. I did not realize it was a CIA-sponsored project. It's a need-to-know thing. But Lee Oswald was brought into this to protect us. Why? Because I was in a project there to try and develop a fast-growing cancer. And I remember I was a specialist in a fast-growing lung cancer that produced lung cancers, debilitating ones, in germ-free mice in 1963, and they wanted to kill Castro. This is only 6 months after the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Right.
And over 600 attempts on Castro's life by the CIA and his other enemies have been, suggested, documented by Grandma Magazine and so on in Cuba, and by the Cuban authorities. We have to assume that some of those had to be CIA sponsored. Of course they were.
Well, perhaps more than some, maybe all.
Well, I always try to err on the side of conservatism, okay?
Absolutely.
So
And
I'm not
Judyth, you've told me in previous interviews that you were introduced to Lee Harvey Oswald while all this was going on, and that Lee's purpose, his mission, was to transport this cancer-causing virus to Cuba, where it would be injected into Castro, causing cancer, which would result in his death. And as cancer, the public, the Cuban authorities, the Soviet Union, and the rest of the world would never suspect that it was an assassination. It would appear to be a natural death from a disease. And it stands to reason that this type of research would have carried on, and that the use of biological weapons against the enemies of the United States likely would have advanced from 1963 to 2020 in the same way that photographic technology and cars and airplanes and computers have.
Well, yes, I suppose now instead of injecting someone, just like we have the half-brother of the North Korean leader, was just wiped with a handkerchief or something and had something on it. He died in a minute. It's probably, can just be sprayed on food and it would occur. Now, I'm not into all of that. I don't want to imply that the United States is using this kind of material, but the temptation to do so and to get away with it seems quite possible. And in my opinion, we have too many South American and Latino leaders who have been against U.S. policies, including Chavez is the number one poster boy there, dying of all of them affected with oral type and stomach cancers, both Castro and Chavez dying from stomach cancer. So that's something to consider. And according to Castro, he said, watch out, these cancers are probably from the United States.
Wow.
So now remember, I don't mean to interrupt you, but Lee Oswald was brought into the project originally. He was slated to go into Cuba for unknown purposes at the time, and it became more and more obvious how he could best be used. He was there to protect us. How? Because Castro was no dummy. He was sending people to, especially New Orleans and Miami, posing as anti-Castro, for example, but they're there to find out what attempts are being made and plans being made to kill Castro. And that's obviously a protective device that Castro would be using. Lee Oswald, by pretending to be pro-Castro and having come recently from the Soviet Union as a fake defector, I knew he was a hero. That man was walking around, free man. If we did this today, we're talking, say, if this were today, Oswald going 30 months into North Korea, telling all the newspapers and all the magazines, and I am going to tell them all the secrets I know about missiles. And then to come back with a Soviet wife and child, and he's walking around a free man, it's impossible. Yeah. So I knew from the beginning, after meeting him and realizing that he was walking around, that he was a good man and that he could be trusted and so on. So he was being used, pretending to be pro-Castro, handing out pamphlets and flyers, and they were watching to see who would take these. He was actually drawing in these spies. He did it at the USS Wasp. He did it twice in New Orleans. He actually did it once in Dallas that people don't know about. So this way, they would go to the flyers. They'd said, we're going to hold lectures. We're going to have various meetings. They never held a lecture, never held a meeting. Right. People would go and knock on the doors. They knock on the doors. Nobody was there. They go away and they get arrested somewhere else, you see. They'd be followed
A
Yes.
honeypot, a CIA honeypot. They put out this information that they know that Castro sympathizers would be interested in, and then they sort of zero in on those people. You and I have also spoken in the past,
So,
Judyth, about, sorry to interrupt you real quick, but just staying on this photo, the allegations that President Trump have made that this is Rafael Cruz standing here with Lee Harvey Oswald, the father of Ted
yes,
Cruz.
yes. To go finish what I was saying quickly,
Yes.
you'll see that on the flyers they kept changing the address because after they arrested people, he would change the address to somewhere else so it wouldn't be connected. So you'll see the flyers start out with Bannister's building there on on Camp Street, 544 Camp Street, front entrance to the big building where the head of the FBI in Chicago, now retired, is in the same building and uses most of the ground floor of that building. So you have that going on. And now this man is supposed to be, he moves to notice this location, then it goes to 4907, then it goes to a post office box, and so on. Because after they would arrest people, they would have to change the address so it wouldn't be connected. So I knew all these things. Now back to what you were saying. Can you let's get the people listening again to what you were saying?
Sure. Well, just talking about the allegations that Rafael Cruz was acquainted with and present in New Orleans with Lee Harvey Oswald, you've previously told me that you've met Rafael Cruz. You do believe this is him standing there with Lee Harvey Oswald, and he's denied it, hasn't he?
Well, of course he'll deny it. I mean, who wants to be associated with Lee Harvey Oswald? But as a matter of fact, back then, remember, Lee was working for us and pretending to be pro-Castro. Now, we had others that were associated, pretending pro-Castro, and they were not. They had infiltrated the other FPCCs, that is the Fair Play for Cuba committees, all over the United States, especially in Miami. About half of them were FBI informants, members. It was amazing. So here we have. Here's the thing, Rafael had come in, he wasn't known there, so he wasn't easily identifiable. In fact, the FBI files and nobody could identify this man, okay? He had come in to actually visit his relatives there and lived in, I think he was living in Houston at the time. And he was asked to just participate. So he shows up at A1 employment office along with somebody else, and they pretend they're getting hired, okay? Now, here's the thing. Rafael was really, in the beginning, pro-Castro, and then he changed his mind, and he was jailed. He had to flee the country, so he was one of ours. But a lot of these people would not have recognized him in New Orleans, and that's why he was useful there. Now, Lee had almost been beaten up in an earlier leafletting over on Canal Street. Now he's at Trademark. He does not want another angry crowd to be there and maybe harass him or maybe even hurt him.
Right.
So he has Rafael, who stands there and does not hand out anything, really. He's just pretending he's holding flyers. He's watching Lee's back. That's basically what he's there for. Now, Lee wanted me to know that he'd be okay. I was scared for him because I'd seen the crowd that had gathered around him. They would have beaten him up. If the police hadn't come, he would have been badly beaten.
Because, Judyth, it's important that we tell people this, back in the day, standing around in New Orleans promoting communism, this is essentially like going up to Times Square right now, waving the ISIS flag and trying to encourage people to join ISIS.
Yes. It was so courageous of Lee. I was so proud of him, but I don't want him to get hurt. So Rafael not being known in town was a very good choice because nobody could pick on him later, you see, or anything like that. And Lee says, don't worry, this person, Raffaello. Now, I never knew his last name. Now, in my book, I had originally, my book, Me and Lee, they took out over 100 pages, and they took out details. When I said I didn't know the last name of this person, they just didn't put it in,
Who's
but
they?
Well, that's my editors and, of my book. Yeah, they don't want things in there that I can't prove. And what's in there is all solid. Okay, it's solid. So that all we could say there is that he hired them. And I had to keep to myself many other details, which, by the way, are going to be out in the new edition that will be coming out this year, we hope.
Very nice.
And we think it's going to be big, really big this time, because
Yeah.
so many, we have witnesses, we have files that people didn't know about that were released. I can prove some incidents that happened now that before we could not, and so on. So it's going to be really good, better than ever. So that people can look forward to that. And by the way,
Absolutely.
we have, as you know, we have the conference every year, and we will have it in 2020, also again in Dallas. But we have see, this is a picture, this is a sculpture I've done of President Kennedy.
Very well done.
And thank you. And people can get this for $175. They'll get a free ticket, or a ticket also, you want to put it, by getting that. They can go to Judyth Baker. My Facebook page will be posting this, and how they can go and register, by getting one of these. So that means we can bring in all kinds of speakers. We pay for their flights, we pay for their hotels. Rich or poor, treated the same. So a lot of poor people who before could not go to these conferences and speak, these tickets, pay for them to get there. And
Right.
we've brought you,
That's true.
in.
I have been there before. It's a great conference, and I do encourage people who are interested in the JFK assassination, even if you've never been to a conference like this before. I really did enjoy the conference that Judyth put on. She does an amazing job, a ton of hard work, and it's the preeminent event of this type. So if you want to meet people firsthand, and Judyth, people who are eyewitnesses to the event are very scarce now. There's not too many people left. So this is the
That's why
time.
we're getting all of them together that we can find. We brought in 2 new witnesses last time, and we intend to do more. I mean, Wynne Johnson had spoken briefly before. Wynne Johnson saw Lee Oswald with Antonio Veciana and David
Oh,
Atlee
yeah.
Phillips. That's very important in Dallas. He's a witness that has come forth, and Veciana vaguely remembers him. He remembered the girl with him better.
Wow.
Girl. Yeah.
And
All right.
of
So I
course,
didn't.
just very
What?
last thing on
Yeah.
JFK, we've got Antonio Veciana right here standing with Rafael Cruz, very distinctive looking guy with his hair, right steps away from the motorcade.
If that's so, again, I'm very conservative, and I always want to go and examine things like that very carefully. But it does look intriguing, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. It does.
So,
Okay, we'll leave the JFK assassination facts there for now. People can go back and look at some of our previous interviews, but it's very interesting how you raised the point of your handling these viruses and your extensive training
yes.
in biology. Part of the reason why I wanted to contact you about this is because when I heard Ted Cruz announce that he is self-quarantining and closing his office, and he's getting out front. Also, by the way, this is in the Dallas Morning News. I thought you would appreciate that. But we've got some of the same old cast of characters, Judyth, coming forward to help us understand how this deadly and dangerous virus could be impacting the world. And primarily what we're going to discuss today are your findings as a researcher, an expert
Yes.
in biology and virology and all of the things that you know about.
Yes, and I've kept up with all the information. I've always begged someone to let me back into a lab. Just because I was associated with Lee Oswald and I was banned from all of that doesn't mean that I don't know what's going on. And I have a lot of information for all of you. Particularly, I would like everyone to, there is hold on just a minute here and I'll get it for you. There's a special, it's called World-O-Meter. Right now, there are 114,029 cases, 4,002 dead, 62,834 have recovered, 15% are in serious and critical condition as of a few minutes ago. And this world clock keeps up with it. So I thought I'd give you the address. People can see what's going on at the time and whether it's going up, down, and so on. There you are. So that is World-O-Meter. Okay, .info/coronavirus/.
Do we know
Coronavirus
who's
one.
providing this information to them, Judyth?
These are reporting agencies. It's set up the same way as they try to find. They know these statistics on deaths. They know the statistics on cancer in the world. They collect statistics on, for example, the debt clock for the United States that you see going, all of that. So it's quite interesting, I believe, to give you at least a general idea of what's being reported, at least officially. And even when I was watching it, it updated. So it updates every maybe 5 minutes or so.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I'm always curious, they're updating it, but I mean, these are numbers. I wonder where the information comes from.
Coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, right now, we're not going to get good information from anybody. First of all, many people are underreporting. The last thing you want to do is confirm somebody has the coronavirus when it may be the flu. So we have hundreds of thousands of flu cases going on. So, which can be classified as coronavirus. They have to do tests actually to find out. There's a lot I can tell you, and I'd like to tell people about the nature of this virus and what it's composed of, to give you a little more information than you can get usually from I can't call them the news anymore. What we have out there, we have news. We have views, not news. We have opinions, not data. We don't have facts anymore. We have a prejudice belief system going on. And it's since I live overseas a great deal of the time, over there they get a lot more information. I come here and we are isolated. We are cut off. We might as well be North Korea as far as getting good information about the rest of the world. It hardly exists. Unless people like you come around and give us more information, we're at the mercy of a few extremely wealthy billionaires who decide what we're going to find out.
That's right.
And I'm a conservative person, shocked at the lack of information that Americans have about the world, so they can be led around by the nose and be told anything, and they have no way to test the veracity of what they've been told.
Right.
The truth.
So that's why I called you.
Well, I'm going to do everything I can to give you correct information. And of course, I can be wrong because I can only go on the basis of what information I can find and what I trust. But just to give you an idea of what this thing is, first of all, in nature, almost every mammal carries a coronavirus. Any milk, most mammals give milk and all that, openly and are viviparous. Okay, so what we're looking at is if a bat has a coronavirus, it does not skip over to a mouse. The murine or mouse virus will not skip over to a bat. We will not have a camel virus skip over to a man. But however we may look at the original way that these viruses and so on, you're good at this. Good for you. You do not want to eat bats. Even though it doesn't skip over, in the past, most people, if you look at it, go by your gut instinct. Should you eat something? You should not be eating something that looks like that any more than monkey brains, which contain viruses that can harm people. We have a natural aversion to certain foods, and it's silly, in my opinion. If you feel a gut feeling, don't eat the stuff any more than you would eat mud. All right. And by the way, people do eat mud because in some areas they're not getting certain chemicals, like in Haiti. They're actually eating mud to get certain minerals they can't get any other way because they're so deprived of good food there. Now, there are four main proteins that are in the coronaviruses. And all these viruses, again, I said, they're specific. They're supposed to be species specific. But something funny's been going on. We have biological weapons being produced all over the world. It should be against the law. All of these should be shut down. Each bioweapon institute or research lab or clinic or whatever you want to call them, they're all doing it saying they have to protect their people from other people, other nations who also have these virus these bioweapon labs.
Right.
When Lee Oswald was sent to Mexico City, he was supposed to hand that off to someone else. He no longer wanted to go to Cuba. We wanted to get married. He did not want to go and risk that. So he was trained how to handle it and how to pass it on to someone else. Well, that virus to kill Castro never did get into Cuba. It seems that they manipulated him down there. They never intended that virus to get into the hands of Cubans. So we felt very used and very abused and angry that Lee would then going to Mexico City, and they had people posing as him saying he wanted to kill Kennedy. The very last thing this wonderful man ever had on his mind. His whole purpose, he taught me to respect Kennedy. I came from University of Florida, where my anti-Castro friends told me how much they hated Kennedy, okay? So I go to New Orleans, and Lee Oswald spends months teaching me the opposite and how much he admired this man, the last man in the world, and the one who tried to save his life. So they have to kill him right away and blame it on him because he had penetrated and got so close to the real assassins, he could be blamed for it, framed for it. And that's what they did. All right. So I'm angry, and I don't care what happens to me. You ought to know that, Jason. I don't care what happens. The fact is, this man did not do it. And to my dying breath, I affirm it. Now, so let's go back to the virus itself.
Yes.
Looking at the virus, a long time ago in days in a virus situation, early in February, I posted that this could not have come naturally. There are too many proteins, new proteins that were involved. These proteins don't occur overnight. There are some 38 new proteins that are with this virus, and they come from most of them from bat and so on. And the problem we have here is that we know they were playing with the coronavirus, not only in their lab, but we're doing it in the United States and other places. People are playing with this stuff, even accidentally. Don't ever say that if you're playing with these kind of materials and viruses, that you can walk out and you will never spread it to anywhere else. It's not if, it's when. It always gets really, I've never seen a case yet where you haven't had accidental accidents happen. Just a cut in your protective clothing and to get it inside and have it hit an open sore on your body or wet feet, if it went all the way down, who knows what. I'm saying not if, but when it gets released, you must look first at biolabs, not at an animal market or somewhere else.
Right. They're blaming these wet markets where live animals are slaughtered for food.
Now, we have rumors only, but they're sensible because it's happened before. We've had workers at those labs take infected animals out and sell them to get extra money.
Jeez.
At those animal markets.
Holy cow.
Well, we're not talking about people necessarily with good sense. We're talking about maybe janitors picking up animals that they're supposed to get rid of.
Whoa. Holy cow. Judyth, let me ask you about one of these facilities, because on another show, we've been looking at this quite a lot lately. In November of 2018, a British organization called the Pirbright Institute filed this patent for coronavirus.
Oh yeah, we have patents. We have a number of patents for coronavirus.
So what do you think about that?
There are about 30 or 40 patents out there. So you're going to find a bunch of them. Why are they patenting these? Because they have the rights, and if they get see if it gets stolen. Remember, these people steal from each other too, because they're trying to make sure they have the most recent version of various viruses, so they can fight back. That's their excuse for stealing. It happens all the time. These are you know what industrial spies are? Well, we have biolab spies.
Right.
Now, what happens? They want to patent these things because if it shows up somewhere else, they can prove what they have. And if it shows up anywhere else, it means it got stolen, for example.
So when they talk in the abstract here, sorry, Judyth, about reverse genetic system for avian coronavirus infectious bronchitis virus, What does that mean to you, reverse genetic
Well,
system?
that's, well, first of all, you've got the 2001 here. So this is early on when they didn't know much and they weren't using standardized language very much. Okay.
Hmm.
Reverse genetics simply means you go backwards, backwards, backwards to find as it changed, as it evolved. And we have, I'll give you a good example. We have people saying the SV40 monkey virus, uh, or let's go to AIDS. That's even better. To say, oh, this AIDS actually evolved from the 1930s. We can see how it changed. We can go reverse it. We can see, we know the natural progress, how fast something can evolve naturally and mutate.
Hmm.
Okay. The trouble is they take it back 1930s, and then they proclaim that we couldn't have done it in the labs in the 1960s. This is absurd because, of course, what we did is we accelerated the mutation process. Therefore, we could get in 63 instead of 1930. But this is how they cover their rear ends. That's covering their rear ends. That's what it's about.
And certainly
So when
someone
you
goes on the
reverse,
news and talks a lot about about a lot of high science. The average person watching has no idea, no ability to doubt, refute.
well, how can you? You don't have the training in
Right.
the area.
Yeah.
So when I see something like that, I know they're covering up. I mean, they're not even mentioning the fact that when you subject viruses, to mutations that, like through, radiation or something, that you're going to have a faster mutation rate, and therefore 1930 doesn't count anymore, for
Hmm.
example.
Hmm.
So they can't use that as an excuse. And anybody who really is honest, unfortunately, this is a fact. A lot of the people being trained today don't know certain areas. I had a doctor contest with me. He said, "You said you used a centrifuge, table-sized centrifuge." He said, "They're that size. What are you talking about?" Well, they were then, but because they have all like electronics and everything. But our simple centrifuges. So I had to bring up a photograph of it from, you know, I think it was eBay. They said, here's one of these vintage model centrifuges. The man didn't know they existed, so he's going to fault me for saying that you're talking about something that never existed. And we look at people who have forgotten how to handle ultraviolet light, and I'll talk about that as soon as I can, okay?
Hmm.
Because they have forgotten many ways that we used to be able to control many of these viruses and infections, especially when we're talking about bacterial infections, because they've been using antibiotics and they've forgotten the old ways of handling these before antibiotics came along. And now when we have antibiotic resistance and, flesh rotting diseases and, eating people's legs away, when we know how to cure it if we just go back to some old methods. And they don't know because they haven't been trained in it. And they're taught to think in the box. If they've overworked the doctors, they make them memorize, not think, memorize. And it's a problem because then what do we have? We have Big Pharma sends these very smooth talking salespeople with their new product, and they wow the doctor who's been taught just to memorize what works and what doesn't, and so on. And our doctors have been taught to treat the symptoms, not the
Right.
cause.
Right.
And that's how Big Pharma makes a lot of money. It is a crime that these people are not being taught. They should all have a course in prior medicine, what techniques were being used in the 1930s, 40s, 50s,
Yeah.
or,
Right.
and
This
they
is a
don't know
sort of
that.
a fundamental problem with the medical system today. A lot of people disagree with the approach, and I do appreciate what you're saying. I want to take you back just for 1 second to this Pirbright Institute patent and make sure I understand
Yes.
what you're telling us. So, is there nothing unusual about them having a patent on the coronavirus that's issued in November of 2018?
No, it's typical. That's how they're going to say. How are they? They want to say, "Hey, that virus out there, that's not ours. Here's ours. Here's our
Hmm.
version. Its envelope, its proteins differ, and so on." They're no one to
Got
be
it.
blamed. Yeah, and yet they want to stabilize and be able to um, be able to recognize their virus patented if it gets stolen, taken anywhere else and used. Not their fault if it's further enhanced and gets loose. I mean,
Wow.
that's the way I look at it. Of course, they're doing all of this also so they can make money. This is important. A lot of these viruses may have been released or may be released because then they can create a vaccine they can make billions of dollars with.
Exactly what I'm getting at, Judith, because
Well, again,
we're not
I
gonna,
say that last because I say I have a conservative approach,
right.
but we have to look at all the possible factors, yes.
Absolutely. And we're not accusing anyone of doing this, just looking at the circumstances as they stand now. I don't
And
know
the
if you're,
potential.
yeah, and the potential for something like that to happen. I don't know if you're aware of this event 201, but this was some sort of a simulation that took place in the end of 2019, back in October at the Pierre Hotel here in New York.
Yeah.
And it was a pandemic simulation. This thing was in part funded by Bill Gates, which Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which
Right.
I bring up because this Pirbright Institute is also funded by them. And a pharmaceutical company in Philadelphia called, I think, Invivio, is being funded by Bill Gates to come up with the vaccine, just as you predicted.
Isn't that interesting? Well, that's the problem. You have what's called a conflict of interest. They should excuse themselves, as you know, and recuse themselves
Yes.
from one of those enterprises. The fact that they're not is now the Gates have done a lot of good things, but unfortunately, I don't think they're doctors, and I think they can be misled, and they can be influenced, and they can be used. And I've seen other instances that I question the actual contents of vaccines that are being given to millions of African children and so on. The children, of course, are being told it's going to protect them. We have found in some, I don't know which batches, I'd have to go into that, I haven't, but there's some indication that some of those vaccines include birth control, shall we say, traces of birth control elements that should not be there.
Right. And Bill Gates, we've heard from other guests, has a familial history of eugenics. So it's interesting.
Yes, so many have. Dr.
Right.
Alton Oschner belonged to the Eugenics Society.
I mean, wasn't he one of the people who was brought over under Operation Paperclip, Oschner?
No, but he was trained in Germany just before World War II. And I mean, under all those things, and he knew a lot of those paperclip doctors, of course,
Yeah.
And of course, we have more paperclip people that are invested in various aspects, right? Everything from the atomic bomb to the helicopters that Lee Oswald's his own wife was living with, a woman who was married to a Bell helicopter technician who was with Dornberger with the Nazis,
Right.
And
right. You're talking about the, how can I not remember their name? The Paynes, their garage was where all of Lee's stuff was.
Payne. Yeah, Ruth and Michael Payne and all the wonderful things they found in the Payne garage that the police could never find that could frame Lee Oswald.
I must have asked you this in the past, and it's not at all related to our conversation today, but I noticed in some photographs of the Payne's garage that I've seen at the National Archives that Lee had a stereoscopic, stereo-realist camera. Did you ever see him take 3D photos? Did you ever see any of his 3D photos? Really?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. They're trying to say he wouldn't use the camera because it takes 2 pictures at once. Is that going to stop anybody from using that camera? I'm starting a museum in Sweden, and I've gotten permission now to run it and everything. We have exact facsimiles. We've purchased the same cameras Lee had. You can handle it for yourself.
But the pictures, no one's ever seen his 3D pictures, have they?
Well, no. How odd that they're all gone. What we do have are a whole bunch of 620 photos, over 300 of them that the Paynes had. And guess what? The camera that took the backyard photos uses 620 film. How interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
I forget the
There's
name
a
of it. It
lot.
was a Rolly or something like that.
It's called an Imperial Reflex 620. I know all about all those cameras. Okay, if you hold on a moment, I'm going to show you one of Lee's cameras. I have a copy with me right now. I'm going to take back to the museum. So let me
Sure.
show you.
I
Just
want to
a
get
moment.
back to the virus, but this is always very interesting for people to see and hear information about Lee Oswald directly from Judyth Vary Baker. The photographic aspects of the story are amazing and hard to believe, of course. The 120 film format is the large format film that was used. The negative that you can see at the National Archives is a 120 roll film negative, which is inconsistent with what Marina Oswald recalled.
Well, right now, actually what I've got here, this is the Bell and Howell. It's exactly what Zapruder used.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And you can look in. So I've got one that people can handle and one that's brand new. And I was trying to. I thought I had it right here. Lee Oswald's. Oh, here it is. I found it. Nope, that's not it.
Well, that's
Yeah,
okay, Judyth. Don't worry. We'll do that on another. We'll do an episode where we'll focus on the museum. Maybe I'll come back to Sweden.
That
but
would be terrific. That would be terrific. Sorry,
and I assume
I'm really excited about things.
I can tell.
Basically, what we're talking about, this piece of help me, Lord, not to say bad words. This Imperial Reflex camera, Marina said she held it up like this to use it, but you can't. You have to use it at the waist level.
Right.
And she tried to get out of this. She has to say that she took the photos because she took this under oath. It was perjury. She can go to jail even today for perjury if she has to say anything different. So we can't rely on what Marina had to say. Any more than when she said that she forced Lee Oswald to stay in the bathroom when Nixon came to town so he wouldn't shoot him. When the bathroom door, there's no lock on the outside of a bathroom door. And then she said she pressed herself against it so he couldn't open it. Okay, but the fact of the matter was it opened her direction.
It's very likely that they were putting pressure on her to force her to say things to try to. We've seen them do this countless times, even recently. Roger Stone and Jerome Corsi and all the different people. Let me take you back to the virus because people want to know
about these cameras all day long. The stereo I handled with my own hands. It's a very big, heavy, beautiful camera made of metal. And then he has his one that came from the Soviet Union with slight alteration. It can be used easily. And he had a Minox. Why in the heck would he want this cheap plastic piece of junk to send photographs, he said, to like the worker or something like that? Of course he wouldn't. Right. Anyways, there it is. And I have two of them, okay?
Yeah.
And because I know exactly which ones. They are wonderful cameras. There's no excuse for him to go and pick up a camera that Robert Oswald said he asked for when he came back from the Soviet Union. They left it with him. Robert Oswald, by the way, you know how he found the camera?
No.
Ruth Paine called him and said, "Hey,
really?
We have a camera here." Weeks after what happened is they couldn't match the camera film that they had, the backyard photos, with any camera. So now what do we find? Ruth Paine calls Robert Oswald and tells him to come get it. Yeah, we got that on record.
I mean, again, there's so much that we can say about this because your personal firsthand knowledge, my photographic knowledge, I get very caught up in these things. But I do want to talk about the virus and the reason why. I really think, Judyth, you are a unique person to have this conversation with because of your background in virology and all of the work that you did while you were an unwitting asset for the CIA, essentially to create a biological weapon in the 1960s, and now we're talking about a modern biological weapon. I just was floored when I saw this news article about Ted Cruz, and I'm just thinking, is this biological warfare that we're seeing right now? Did someone target China?
Well, again, we're talking about speculation, but think about this. There are several ways to look at this. Say that you are angry at China for messing up the economy of American economy, for example, and they are posing a great threat.
Right.
One of the ways to handle this is just to make sure they can't have anything shipped out of China anymore. Mm-hmm. So it might have been an accident that it got released, or maybe it was purposely released by someone who had infiltrated them. The Chinese may not be involved at all, but the way they've reacted, closing down the lab where they were doing research to try and find the answer is suspicious, because if it could have led that it came from the Chinese lab, and they don't want that. So they closed the lab down that was looking into it in Shanghai. And, so nobody knows anymore how far they got to identifying the true origin of this virus. Now, here I want to talk about the virus itself, what people need to know, and it will help them a little bit to understand. Oh, I just shake my head with horror at some of the things that people are putting online. I've put some of this on my Facebook page, Judyth Baker, Judyth Baker. And someone has put, what about those wonderful purple crystals? Surely they will help us. Purple crystals. Amethyst crystals are the vibrations from the crystals are supposed to protect you from the virus. Oh. Please, people, please. These old-fashioned, or how about this? I think you can be cured, says this one group of this one person posting on my page, by just drinking a lot of lime juice, because yes, that will cure you. I've read about it, Please,
Doesn't seem very scientific.
Well, there is one aspect, and that is that vitamin C, which is an ascorbic acid, and a slightly acidic state, is better than a basic. Unfortunately, everybody's messed this up too. We have people who think that they can keep cancer away from them or stop cancer from growing by having an alkaline diet. And the way they think they're going to get the alkaline diet is by eating acids. Now, that's the most crazy thing I've ever seen if you know anything about chemistry. The only reason it looks that way is that when you eat something, it's terribly alkaline or terribly acid. Let's do it like Coca-Cola, very acid. Goes into your bloodstream, and your body immediately will leach out from your bones and everywhere else it can to balance the pH. So your blood will look alkaline. So these people are saying, aha, I drink all this acid and my blood becomes alkaline. No, your body is desperately trying to balance it, So these people who think that cancer doesn't grow in acid, it only grows in alkaline, this is ridiculous. I have grown cancer in everything. Cancer actually survives longer in more alkaline and in more acid than normal cells. They're stronger that way. They have more resilience. I've seen so much money being made by this and by ozone and all kinds of things. If you have cancer and you have lung cancer, you should be sleeping at night with oxygen, because that helps kill cancer cells. There are things like that are true. Then there are the silly things like eat lots of acids and that's going to cure cancer because it makes your blood alkaline. No, it's the acid itself that has lots of vitamin C in it that helps you so much. And if you're drinking Coca-Cola to do it, all that sugar is just going to make you die faster. Oh my God,
right.
There's so much stuff out there. It's just ridiculous. So let's look at this virus and what it really is about.
Right.
And ways that you can protect yourself. And I've worked on this a while because it's very important. It's made of 4 main proteins. We got the spike surface. Think of a little rubber squeeze ball that you could, soft, gooey ball, there. On the outside of these spicules, see those spikes? Yes. Well, those spikes those are glycoproteins. I want you to think of Jell-O. It's real sticky. And the idea is that starts plowing through, into your body, and it's going to grab onto anything it can to attack with this sticky stuff. Okay? Mm-hmm. So what they've been trying to do is stop this stuff from being so sticky, if you want to put it in very simple language. Mm-hmm. That's the outside. So that's a spike surface glycoprotein. And the next part is the envelope. See that ball? It is that grayish part there is the envelope. Inside is more stuff. Okay? Mm-hmm. That envelope is small. And inside there is a matrix of proteins, all right? All these are proteins. And inside that is nuclear capsid proteins. So you have 4 different kinds of proteins. Attacking any one of these 4 proteins helps kill the virus. So you're going to attack the little spicules, you're going to attack the envelope there, or you're going to penetrate inside, to see it, see? So those are the various ways you can attack this thing and disrupt it. Now, inside that interior cycle is something called, we have what's called the phospholipids. How am I going to say this in language you guys are going to? This phosphatidylcholine is known, and choline is known. Choline is one of the ways that this virus likes to get stronger, put it that way. So anybody really, right now, if you find a product, people need to write this down. If you have something with lecithin in it, go lecithin, lecithin. Look it up on your very fast here. Look at lecithin. There are many products that have lecithin in them, and it's been being touted as it's lowers cholesterol and so on. That's choline, choline. Lecithin is phosphatidylcholine, and you don't want to use stuff with lecithin in it right now because it helps strengthen the virus. All right? And lecithin, if you put up their products, foods that have lecithin in them, choline is choline.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, that's all right. You're so good at this. So that choline, there we go. Okay. You see, it's a cation, all right, forms various salts, essential nutrient for humans, so I don't want you to stay away from it. See the phosphatidylcholine, there it is, and there's the formula. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately for us, this virus loves it, and I would stay away from foods that have. Now go to lecithin, Leci, lecithin, you put that much in, the rest is going to come up. Lecithin.
There you go, yeah.
All right, go ahead, lecithin. That's a choline product, and that's the one that's found in a lot of foods. So I would not be using less, even though it's good to lower cholesterol, okay? You really, really shouldn't be, and this is not a big deal. It's not a big thing. I'm just recommending that I personally will stay away from it when there's an outbreak of any of these coronaviruses around. That's just a little side thing. You don't have to obsess over it. It's not going to kill you if you eat it. I'm just saying it impedes the virus a little bit because it needs choline in order to proliferate, okay, and to penetrate cells.
Judyth, not to distract, but Kate01 is saying that she doesn't agree that oxygen would help to kill cancer cells.
Well, here's the thing. Cancer cells do not need oxygen. They are anaerobic. The cells around the cancer cell, I didn't say it kills it, I said it helps. And what we're looking at is the fact that normal cells that need oxygen are strengthened. All right? So they're stronger if you have oxygen.
Got it.
And anybody who cannot breathe very well should be on oxygen anyway.
Right.
So what's the problem? Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well said.
Okay. So there's no reason why not to use it, and it will help. Now, these host receptors, okay, all the cells in your body, they're going to be, they will receive antibodies, they'll receive different things that will help the cells, they'll attach to each other. I mean, our whole bodies are held together because we have receptor cells that stick us together, if you want to look at it very, very plainly and bluntly. That these Here's the thing about, there are 4 kinds of coronaviruses: alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. 4 different kinds. This one is a beta, and it's the most common one that proliferates for bat and camel and so on. And it's all related to SARS and MERS and so on. And the 380 different protein differences between this new coronavirus and former ones. That's a lot. Well, not compared to the fact it has 26,000 to 32,000 various genetic genomes that we're looking at, 6 to 11 zones of them. What I'm trying to say is the 380 known differences, that looks engineered to me, okay? It's hard to see how you could get such a swatch, such a large number of differences suddenly appearing. This looks like it's been played with. They play with this stuff in the labs because they want to try and find out how to cure it. And then it gets loose.
Well, but that's the benevolent purpose, of course. If there were someone who wanted to take a virulent agent like this and weaponize it, they might also genetically modify it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right. So what can we do? Now we're getting into some exciting areas. I've seen people going to extremes. What can you do to protect yourself? Let's start with
some of our viewers are suggesting canceling school and church. I feel like that's not the best approach.
It depends. Seriously, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
Let's look at what you should be eating right now and so on. All right. Stay away from choline, but take a daily vitamin that has selenium and zinc in it. Selenium. Viruses like the coronas, they hate selenium. They don't want to, be subjected to selenium or zinc. Gives your immune system something to fight with against corona, okay, and flu and so on. Then there's niacin, non-flushing formula, 400 milligrams. While this is going on, you don't do this all the time because you shouldn't build up a lot of niacin in your system for other reasons. But niacin is the non-flushing formula. It's nicotinic acid. Again, here's our acid, okay? And 400 milligrams a day, or if you're getting the symptoms, take it with every meal, okay? And lots of water. The dangers they talk about by taking some of these supplements, such as we're going to talk about vitamin C next, is because people are not drinking enough water with them. Then it can hurt your kidneys. These are niacins and vitamin C and so on. They're water-soluble vitamins. You can't overdose. Well, it's difficult. I mean, if you take a whole bottle, I suppose you can overdose. But the point is, as long as you drink sufficient water, extra water with it. Now, what kind of water? You take that tap water, I wouldn't touch it. You take the tap water and you boil it. You boil it, drink that. I'm telling you, that's going to make quite a difference. The coronavirus, please listen, people, is destroyed at 75 degrees centigrade. That is 169 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can actually cook this stuff out with an iron. You can iron your clothes and kill it. You can heat up, even your dryer probably can get up to that temperature. You don't want to, 200 melts nylon and plastic Ziploc bags. So you don't want to go up to 200, but 170 will kill it. So if you have sheets or anything, somebody's sick, you can put chlorine, chlorinate those sheets and all that, dry them in a hot dryer, iron them, that'll kill it. It just won't be there. Now, why aren't they on these ships and they're out there at sea? What are they doing with their sheets and pillowcases and so on if they are not sterilizing them? I hope they're throwing them away. Well, they're very primitive. They're not sterilizing these ships, or this wouldn't be... To put 3,000 people in quarantine together only guarantees that most of them are going to get it. It's the silliest thing I've seen.
Wow.
Of course, what they should do, anybody with the symptoms should be stay on the ship, okay? And anybody without symptoms should be removed and put in a hospital and watched until, they're all right. Not leave them all there until they all get it, or most of them get it. because that air circulating will eventually, through their air conditioning and through the vents and everything, what can they do to stop that? If they installed germicidal black lights, black
Huh.
lamps in all their ventilation systems, it kills it.
Wow.
Why haven't they done it?
You know, Judyth,
Stupidity.
Grateful Girl
Yep.
is with us in the comments, remarking that,
Yes.
well, asking, I already know your answer. She's asking if you recommend the flu shot because Grateful Girl got one and had the worst flu ever.
No. Flu is mutating too quickly because there are too many cases, and it only worked like 30% of the chance last time. Here's what happens. Think of a flu shot as creating antibodies in your system. Think of little cars going down a road. That's your bloodstream, okay? And you've got these various antibodies. You get a bunch of them, it literally clogs the whole system. So here comes a new flu bug, and you've gotten this flu shot, but it doesn't work anymore. But the body doesn't know it. It will send these antibodies, so to speak. I'm using very plain language, okay? But the body will react to the flu by sending the antibodies it has against flu, and that wastes time. Why? It doesn't work. And then the body says, uh-oh, this doesn't work. I'll try another of these antibodies from the flu from last year, all right? Nope, that doesn't work. Now, what are they going to do? Then they finally going to manufacture the proper antibodies themselves. That is, if they know how to manufacture. We actually are losing some of our capacity to manufacture our own antibodies because we're being infused with these artificial ways to, it's like crying wolf. The body says, gee, I've got to make antibodies, and then there's nothing to react against.
So every year you put this different flavor of flu shot into your body,
Yeah.
and it's causing your body to kind of use that as a crutch and have the wrong roadmap, so you never get the right antibodies going.
Well, it slows it down because when it doesn't work, finally the body will manufacture its own. But will it manufacture it even to the extent it usually would? Not if it thinks it's not real, if there's no real. What if that it doesn't recognize the flu virus at all anymore because it hasn't even seen the virus itself? It's seen the dead ones, the attenuated ones that you've been given before. And now this one's slightly different. It wastes time. If you've never had a flu shot and the flu bug comes along, it's going to say, what is this? I'm going to fight it right now. But if it says, hey, I've got the stuff to fight it, and it tries and it doesn't work, that's precious time that's wasted. And so I have never had the flu shot. I never will. I've never had the flu. I mean, I say I never. It's been years. I can't remember when I had the flu.
Yeah.
All right. So
And
that's
actually,
the way
another
it is.
person I know, a friend of mine, called me the other day and said he got a flu shot and got the flu. Because he was always, big proponent of I'm crazy to be against vaccines, and he called me to tell me that.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate, but we actually have a flu epidemic, and the more flu shots you have out there, the more people come down with the flu. Why? Okay? Something's wrong there. Something's being messed up. Now, there's an industry out there that makes plenty of money fighting flu. You have the big pharma that's creating all these vaccines, and you have the big pharma that creates all the medicines to fight flu.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Well, the thing that I find most interesting is that, here in New York City, I walk by.
Nothing's free.
Well,
Yeah, you've got these flu shots. Nothing's
right,
free. There's no
exactly.
catch.
So, I mean, you walk by CVS and things like that. I mean, even sometimes I don't know, stores that aren't really pharmacies have free flu shots. And this looks like it's Staples based on the font, but I don't know. And it just causes me to think that, we get, go to Walgreens, get your free flu shot.
We had free polio shots, and what did we get? We got 98 million cases of people infected with SV40 monkey virus and its associate viruses that cause cancer.
That's exactly what I'm getting at, Judyth, because what I foresee in the not too distant future, they foment all this panic in the news, and they get everybody really in the mode of being so frightened of this coronavirus that the second a vaccine appears, people are going to want it, parents are going to want their children to have it, children are going to want their elderly parents to have it, and then some senator, maybe Ted Cruz, goes and says, ooh, Congress should give billions of dollars to some pharmaceutical company so we can distribute these coronavirus shots for free. I'm
going to defend Cruz. I'll show you what I'm talking about. By isolating himself. He's setting an example. It's better to stay isolated from others while this is going on than to have people come from randomly into your office. And if they don't like you, and what if they're what if they're a carrier and want you to get it?
I just don't trust the guy, and I think he's a deep state Manchurian candidate from birth.
It's hard for me to trust most of our legislators seeing what is happening to our country. Why we are being forced almost to do vaccination. Look, when I live in Sweden and I see they need 11 to 13 vaccinations, and I come over here and you're supposed to get 56 for your poor child as a pincushion. Why 56 here? Why only 11 in Sweden? And by the way, they live longer. They have lower infant mortality rates. Everything's better. Why aren't we listening to them? Why are we listening to the drug companies or to legislators who are getting their pockets filled with a lot of bribery money in order to sell vaccines and force people to take them?
Judyth, Sheila is with us in the comments, and this is of some concern. She's got chronic lymphomatic leukemia, CLL, and this whole thing scares her. Obviously, someone who has a pre-existing and such a serious medical condition is at greater risk of getting sick from anything, the flu, coronavirus.
Well, yes, everything's compromised in their system already, and she's taking certain medications. These lower your resistance to other. She should stay away from people. And we're going to talk about how you can protect yourself in a few minutes.
Well, let's do that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say about the niacin that then vitamin C, do not believe what they're saying. Why are they saying it? Oh, don't take vitamin C. It's not going to work, or it's dangerous. Of course it's not. You can take a lot of it. Just be sure to drink a lot of water. You would get kidney damage if you ate salt, and don't get enough water. Any of your, always, when you're adding any medication or anything to your diet, you should add water to help your kidneys and liver work with these new additions that don't belong naturally in your body that much of anything. It's just a nice rule of thumb. Vitamin E is another important adjunct here to help you. Now, let's talk about hands. All this they're talking about, keep scrubbing your hands, with the hand cleanser. You can dry out your hands. You get the tiniest crack, and a virus can get through the crack in your hands, okay?
Well, also, they've been blowing out the price online for all these hand sanitizers.
Of course, making a lot of money for hand sanitizers. You need to keep your hands oiled if you possibly can, okay?
I never use this stuff, Judyth, this hand sanitizer stuff.
Well, it removes all the bacteria that you have in your hands that protect you actually from other bacteria. It messes up everything. I don't use it. I use soap and water. Soap and water is normal. We've evolved soap and water to use because it works. It removes just enough oil and just enough of surface bacteria. But let's talk about what we can do. I want you to understand some principles that what can make a difference here. I'm just getting rid of some of these notes. Let's look.
People are very excited to hear your input, Judyth, and I am as well. This is one of our best interviews, I think.
Well, God bless you all. And listen, don't just listen to me. Always check with your doctor. Hopefully your doctor knows what they're talking about and trying to keep up with all this. Some of them, though, are, it depends on how much... seriously, how much they're interested in opening their minds.
Absolutely.
Things keep changing. We can't just keep treating symptoms. We have to treat causes. So
I just want to take a minute, Judyth, to remind people if they're seeing you for the first time, they should go over to Amazon.com and purchase your book, Me and Lee, all about your life as a young researcher in New Orleans and your romance with Lee Harvey Oswald. It's a fascinating book, and if people are subscribed to Audible, you can even get it for free from Amazon. You can get it on Kindle, you can get it as a hardcover or a paperback, and it is a fascinating story, not only about Judyth's background in biology and her studying of cancer, but amazing insights into previously unknown facts about the JFK assassination.
Well, it's interesting that, of course, politics and government and health and let's say assassinations using health methods. Unfortunately, they work together, sometimes in tandem. Here's the thing, back then, also the book will show you how we developed this biological weapon. It's step by step. You'll see how we did it. So you can, that way you can understand. And when we really understood that they're not going to throw this stuff away after Castro.
Right.
Do you know, we were young and impressionable, and we trusted our government back then in ways we don't do anymore. Mm-hmm. Back then, it was to be used for nefarious purposes later. You would be shocked at how late it was in our minds before we realized those kind of potential uses. Dr. Oschner is the nicest smile in the world. He was King Rex in the parade in New Orleans. He's loves people. He never took money for himself. He got a Cadillac every year from the big people who wanted to kill Kennedy.
Wow.
Talking about Murchison gave him a Cadillac every year.
Whoa. That was a big deal, too, because you didn't have all these incredibly fancy super $1 million cars. Cadillac was like the pinnacle, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And the other thing about Murchison, of course, living in Dallas, all right? And here you're looking at, there's Oschner there, and he's with his wife there. And in that picture, they're looking at Central and South America, where Oschner would go and fly in, and the CIA knew about this, and help the dictators like Perón and all that to get over their illnesses.
Ooh.
He had connections everywhere. He flew every week into Washington, D.C. to talk to the Army Surgeon General and to the CIA. The last association of Oschner Clinic with the CIA was in November 1963.
Really?
You've got to see how they cut themselves off from any association. I could go on and on, but you will see how we built the virus, how we built a biological weapon, step by step. It's right there in the book, and how it can be done. Yeah.
Wow.
Took them
and the hospital
2 years.
Still exists in Jefferson, Louisiana.
It exists. It's huge. It's a huge facility. There's a big statue. Oh, gosh. We go usually once a year to New Orleans. I take people on a tour so they can see exactly what happened, where we lived, what we did, all the things, because people need to see this in context and how they got away with so much. We were trying to kill Castro. We were spreading dengue fever. We were spreading swine flu among the pigs, wiping out Castro's pigs. We burned the cane fields, using surrogates, anti-Castro warriors. So New Orleans was right in the middle of all that. Got to meet so many people. They were openly often saying Kennedy ought to be shot. You have Carlos Marcello said, he did it. I mean, he took credit for it, that he's helped kill Kennedy. He ran the town. So there's a lot there. And with over 600 reviews and a 4.6 star rating, despite nasty, bad reviews saying, who cares if Mary Sherman wore her hair in a bun? That's, if you call that a book review, for a 1 star. I'm really grateful for the people who read it. Yeah.
600 ratings, Judyth, 4.5 stars. It's very, very popular, the book.
Or 4.6, actually, 4.6. But the thing is that one bad rating, you have to have, it takes 5 or 6 5 stars to make up for it. So when you see that, it's really remarkable, and I'm happy about that.
And let me ask you this. I know you hate it when I ask you to speculate, and I'm not trying to irritate you, but I do appreciate your insights. And I know people want me to ask you this stuff. So this morning, we've been hearing that there was someone at the CPAC conference where President Trump gave a presentation last week, and someone there has been apparently diagnosed with coronavirus. Both Trump and Pence were there. And then my question becomes, is this whole thing a pretext to do essentially what they planned to do to Fidel Castro, to Donald Trump and Mike Pence, and install crazy Nancy Pelosi as the president?
Well, here's the thing. I don't like name calling, and I'm going to
Sorry.
fault you on that because I
Sorry.
want you to have, I want you to stay in such a position that anybody hearing this will be able to be persuaded and they won't be antagonized.
I apologize. You're right.
Well, for example, Mike Wallace's son, Chris Wallace,
yes,
in his interviews, he never calls names. He has a lot of respect. But overseas, calling names like that is considered absolutely irrational.
Okay. I apologize for doing that. I personally think that what people like Chris Wallace do with politely telling people very destructive lies is worse than colloquially expressing my dissatisfaction with Nancy Pelosi. But you are right. Let me rephrase the question. Do we think it's possible that this coronavirus outbreak, I mean, we know we have seen Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, Gerald Nadler, Adam Schiff go to great lengths telling extreme lies, sometimes in Congress, to try to remove President Trump. And it seems to me that they aren't going to give up. And the physical termination of his presidency has to be something that these people who are engaging in insidious lies are considering. And so it seems that the American people would not tolerate an open assassination in the way President Kennedy was removed in 1963. But we were speaking this morning with Beverly Oliver about how different things were in 1963 in every respect. And you've just reiterated it. People trusted the government. People trusted each other. You'd leave the door to your house unlocked. We're in a much different society now. I just wonder if this isn't a plan to now announce that Trump is sick.
When Kennedy was killed, forgive me for interrupting. I know we don't have forever. It's amazing to me that we have so many ways to kill, and it seems to be almost celebrated instead of trying to protect more of us. Frankly, I'm surprised that this is my assessment. I'm surprised that Trump is still alive.
I am too.
He has to have. I met a lady in New York. See, I've tried to stay neutral. I've always do because I want people on all sides to trust my information. I try to stay as neutral as possible. But I was in a wheelchair. You know, I wear a neck brace a lot now because I got hurt, and so in some instances I have to use a wheelchair if I can't, especially at airports. And this is just before the election, the Trump election. I call it the Trump election because it was such a surprise. Despite all the rigging that I saw went on, he won. It had to be far more people voting for him because of the anomalies I saw. And you can talk to Richard Sharnin, Charnin, Richard Sharnin, about electoral discrepancies. He's a mathematician, and that's not him.
I was already looking for this image when you mentioned him, but this is a thumbs up from President Trump.
Here's the problem, as I see it. She said, I sure miss Donnie. I said, who's Donnie? She said, Donnie Trump. She said, I worked for Donnie for 15 years. He was the best boss. This is a black lady. Best boss I ever had. All I'd ever heard is that the blacks hate him. She just said it wasn't. She just hated her new job of pushing wheelchairs, you know, because she couldn't work for him anymore. And I was shocked because all I'd heard is nasty stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I finally listened. Months later, maybe 2 years later, I finally listened to a Trump rally. I always try not to do things like that, but I thought, wait a minute, I hear plenty from the other side, you know, from all that's going on. So he said a certain number of things. I always write notes down. That's why I have such really good chronological evidence and information in my book, Me and Lee. We have Dick Russell. He had information from somebody else, you know, from Nagel, Richard Case Nagel, and wherever he had a blank and knew where Lee was, I have a blank because I didn't know where Lee was. It matches just beautifully. So I have all these records. So I'm writing down. So then I turn to CNN. I don't care what CNN will say about me because of this, but it's the fact and it's true. They misquoted him. They misquoted him on
misquoted essential. Trump.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Right.
Because I trusted the news people, and I have the notes, and I have what they said, and they lied, and that was a real eye opener. It really was.
I'm
And for anybody else,
surprised that you would trust the news after the JFK assassination.
not trust. I didn't think that they would openly lie about something I just saw on TV. How could they? I mean, how could they spin it that fast into something else? And it did happen. And I don't know. I don't trust anybody in major news. Here's the litmus test. If it works every time, if they say Lee Oswald killed Kennedy, they're bought and sold and paid for, or they're too stupid, or they are very ignorant, and you can't trust them. It's the very best litmus test there is. If they say, if any publication says Oswald did it, they're bought and sold. They are CIA run. Infiltration by the CIA in all of our major networks was going on in the 50s and 60s, let alone now. So I mean, it's hopeless.
Yeah. Well, there's still some hope, Judyth. We still have hope, right? Even though it's a sad situation. What else can you tell people about the coronavirus? We want to hopefully let's keep it to 90 minutes so that people aren't too overwhelmed.
Yeah, I want to tell you how to protect yourself, and I think it's the most important thing you can do. No, the first and most important is how to keep it out of your house. Oh, by the way, about the CPAC conference.
Yes.
This is really hitting home. I am currently in North Carolina. I'm not going to stay here. I'm here to work on the art, making those statues that I showed you, the Kennedy statues. So they'll be ready for people. And then I'm moving on. I'm going to go back to Sweden, as a matter of fact. But here's, believe it or not, right where I'm living, 1, 2, 3, 5 students were at the CPAC meeting. And they're all were tested today for the coronavirus. They've all been tested as negative, just for your information.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So they were going to close the entire university down here where we are if they had tested positive, and have all the classes online. So that's what's just happened here this morning.
There's a lot of that type of thing happening. I don't mean to take away time from what you're going to share with us, but a lot of that sort of thing happening. We heard that the South by Southwest Film Festival had been canceled, and I think most people probably think, who cares? It's a bunch of Hollywood people. But there are going to be young filmmakers who are starting out, people who have spent their life savings making a movie that was going to premiere at South by Southwest, or that they were going to try to sell at South by Southwest, or they saved up all their money to drive their band over there. And all of those people are going to lose an amount of money that will put them out of business, set their life back a few years, probably destroy their projects, destroy their businesses. And I think that sort of thing is happening all over the place.
Yeah, it's, and the panic is disproportionate to the actual, don't get me wrong, this thing is, it's getting to a state where a lot of elderly people and very young children are at risk. It is, and they haven't contained it properly. And that's what I want to talk about. You have these cruise ships again. They're actually unloading them and they talk about they stop plane flights from China, but then they let the cruise ship people come in and contaminate everything. I mean, it's just, okay, what is going on? We used to have safe hospitals. My friend, I would not go to a hospital if I could avoid it because they're so dirty. They're filthy. I will ask everyone here, you get yourself a fluorescent black light. It's a germicidal type black lamp. And they're about 19 inches long. You can buy them from Amazon, and they're not very expensive. But you plug that into a battery and carry that with the lights off into any hospital, and you would close it down because it shows all the germs. You would not believe how filthy hospitals are. You know why? They used to use black lights to kill all that. They used to use lots of chlorine. They used to mop things up really well. But you know why they stopped? We don't have to, because if they get an infection, we will use antibiotics. Are you there? Did I lose you? Hello?
Can you hear me now? Okay, I don't know what just happened. My audio went to mute. I'm still here.
Well, Well, that happens. You know
Yeah.
why? I told you every
Very
time I
weird.
try to.
Very weird.
No, it always happens. Anytime we've had something this long, finally, all right, your germicidal lamp, if you walk into a hospital with it, with the lights off anywhere,
Mm.
into bathrooms, into rooms, you can close that hospital down. That's how dirty it is. They're
Mm.
filthy.
Mm.
They're filthy because they stopped using truly valuable ways to disinfect everything because they didn't have to. If anybody got a disease, they could use
Ah,
antibiotics, you see,
right.
to stop it. That's not true anymore. On top of that, we have flesh-eating bacteria killing people when some exposure to black light would kill it. And they've forgotten all about the germicidal black light. Now, notice it has to be truly germicidal. That is the spectrum. Okay, is only a narrow area between basically 200 and under 400 kills. Coronavirus kills everything. All right,
Hmm.
you don't want to look at it. You want to protect your skin. The point is you can pass that over any sore or anything like that. Protect the rest of that body, the skin. Cover it so it doesn't. But it kills the coronavirus almost immediately. But it only works about up to 4 inches away. Nevertheless, I would put that thing on my counter in the kitchen and have it on all night, facing up at the ceiling so it doesn't bleach anything out. Any air passing over it, okay, it's going to kill any virus that is in that air. And I would do that as a recommendation.
Hmm.
But you can see how they have it overhead, but that bleaches and harms a lot of stuff that way. It only works for about 4 inches. After that, it's not that good. But the point is, if your air is circulating and you're doing that all night, a lot of air is going to get sanitized and protected. I recommend this UV. There you go. See the wavelength there in the nanometers?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be where it says that right at 320, 340, and there 360. That UVA is what you want. Mm-hmm. And of course, you go down to 300. That's fine. UVC, that's dangerous. You can't see it at all. They also add the purple so that you can see the lights on. So it'll go up past 390 or 400. And then you can see that purple.
Into the visible spectrum.
Yeah, that's visible. And you need to be able to see that so you know the light's on. We have some of these germicidal lamps, and they're clear, and they don't show the purple. You can't tell whether they're on or off, and that's dangerous because then you don't want to look at it, you see.
Ah.
All right. I own one. Whenever we have a flu or any other, which flu is like coronavirus in many ways, anybody coming in our house with it, we turn that thing on after they leave. Sterilize all. You can put that in toward your sink. It'll sterilize everything in your sink. Throw away your sponges. Sponges they're nothing but great places to grow viruses and bacteria. Never use sponges in your home
What do
at all.
you use to clean dishes?
Scrubbies made of copper or steel.
Not plastic.
No, if you saw plastic under the microscope, you see it's full of little holes and they fill up with bacteria.
Wow.
Worthless. You can spread your disease to everybody. And somebody like with has cancer already, you don't know what viruses might carry that cancer to loved ones in your own family.
Oh my God. So cancer can be contagious?
We had cancer, monkeys with cancer that were caged next to monkeys without cancer, and it spread to them, yes. Wow. It depends on the virus. It depends on whether cancer is from a virus or it's from asbestos or whatever, all right?
Wow.
Well, people don't want to hear this, and you don't hear it because who would take care of people? As a matter of fact, people take care of people with leprosy and they never get leprosy. I mean, it's not that contagious. The point is, you go ahead and have sponges and somebody accidentally coughs or spits on it, and then you're going to use that to wipe your dishes with, or don't do it. Throw it away. Don't use it.
What about colloidal silver, Judyth? Some people have said that will kill viruses. No?
All right, I've done tests on it myself. I'll tell you how much colloidal silver is in that. People used to be able to ward off a lot because they had traces now, mind you. Some people now are taking so much silver that their skin turns gray and it won't turn back. All right, you don't want. you don't need that much silver. A little silver is definitely helps your immune system. You know how much you need? You buy yourself a set, like people, you know what, you have the word silverware, you know what that's why? Because people used to have silver plated ware,
Yeah,
silverware.
right.
You buy yourself a set of silver plate and you've got all the silver you need just by eating
Just
off of
from
it.
eating from the forks and stuff.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
That's how little silver is in colloidal silver solutions. All right.
But it is beneficial to some extent, you're saying.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do the colloidal. You waste your money. But get for $150, you can get your set of silver to last you your lifetime, or you go get replated. Maybe it depends how much you use it, but that's what we use, and it's you get exactly the amount of silver you should be having. You won't overdose it. Doesn't cost anything. You don't have it sitting around in big containers and selling it to people. I mean, it's a scam that way. Get your silver by actually having silver plate. It's all you can buy it. Secondhand silver plate. That's what we have.
Right.
That's the best and easiest way to get your silver.
And
That's
what
all
other
you need.
methods do you recommend for protecting? The ultraviolet light is a good suggestion. Any other things along those lines?
Absolutely. Yes. Let's go on.
Sure.
I have just purchased 12 bottles of denatured. That is, it's alcohol. All right, 70%. All right. You can go to Amazon. Now look at that. There's that. See that bottle?
Whoops.
See if you can get that bigger. This bottle. They showed a bottle. See the bottle? Yeah. Yeah. All right. 70% isopropyl alcohol. See that? You
Yep.
wipe that, it kills it. All right. Now what? But look at what they want, $1.76. You go ahead and get that because it's going to go way up.
Yeah,
in
this
price.
is $31.99 at Staples for it's 12.
That's for
Yeah,
12
carton.
of them, but that's still yeah. So
Still a
there you
lot.
go. $1.76. That now what you do, they've got these chlorine wipes and other wipes. You go ahead, those wipes that you can go and wipe everything with.
Yeah.
You pour that alcohol inside with those wipes. You've got the alcohol and the wipe, and use that to carry that around. You can carry some packages of that around.
But chlorine and alcohol, that's not dangerous to mix?
No,
Okay.
no. Well, no. You don't. I didn't say pour chlorine. I said pour alcohol into these wipes. Some of them have like they have various. They're basic wipes. You can go to and see them here. You can go to them. Just do sanitary wipes, and it'll come up. Some of them by Clorox. Some of them by. I'm not interested now. I'll show you which one. All right, there you go. Tough wipes. See those? All right. All these scrub in a bucket and all that. Basically, the Clorox disinfecting are pretty good, but look how much they want for them. All right, well, that's there for them, I think. But the point is, you get yourself some wipes, you pour the alcohol in it, and you can take that. When you open the doorknob, you put that on there. Not only you're not going to get the virus yourself, it's going to kill the virus for anybody else. Touch it, it might touch that doorknob. Wipe down your desk, your go ahead and wipe down your computer, anything that can harbor this stuff and somebody coughing on it, for example, and so on. It only lives 72 hours. After that, it dies. So we should be able to contain this thing. See? Now, what else can you do? So you say you have the wipes. Well, I suppose some of the other things that you can do involve, they say wear a mask. Why would you wear a mask? Not because it stops you from anything from getting to you. If somebody spits or coughs right at you, it's not going to help you. It's to stop you from touching your own face. Because only through the moist mucous membranes, I can use an oscilloscope. You'll find that you can get electrical discharges just from putting a meter up to your. I could actually show you. It looks really weird. Maybe I shall. I'm going to show you something weird.
More and more people are wearing these facial masks around New York City. Just as I walk around and observe that, definitely commonplace in Asian countries for a long time. We've seen people wearing these face masks.
That is not protecting them as much as they think. It will from direct coughs and things like. See this little nice little meter here. And this check does electrical discharge. I can actually put.
So this is just a multimeter, a voltmeter.
Yeah, it's a voltmeter, and you put it on the gray area down here. And if you put the two together, look, I'll show you. Put the two together. Can you see this?
I see the probes. Right. Yeah.
Okay. And if you put that together, the needle will go haywire. Watch.
Right.
See it?
Yeah.
Can you see it? All right. Well, I could do this. I put them on here and here.
I hope there's no coronavirus on the meter.
No, but the thing is, my mouth is moist, and so it makes a connection here and here. So the mouth is moist, and I'm trying to say that. So it's electrical discharge. Coronavirus will take off if it reaches your moist mouth. That's why you don't want, why you want to put on the mask, and why you the whole idea, okay, to have you don't want that moist area, mucous membrane there of your mouth, okay, to pick up anything. And now, that is, you'll get, if you have it on your finger and you touch your mouth, you'll give it to yourself.
We've got Karma enters the room saying it can pass through your eyes. And apparently Karma enters the room is currently doing vaccine research on COVID-19.
Yeah, well, pass through your eyes and pass through any area where you have moisture, like mouth. You touch your eye, nose. Like that. Yeah, put your finger up your nose, anywhere where there's moisture, it can take off, and it can penetrate these membranes pretty quickly. Right. Remember, I showed you, see how sticky it is? Now, you know what snot is, the stuff that comes out of your nose, that's your body's defense to get rid of this. When you're blowing your nose, what are you going to do with those tissues? Now I'm going to tell you something else.
Yeah.
What do you do with those tissues? You're going to throw them in the garbage and have it spread to everybody?
Flush them down the toilet?
Then get it in the water supply. That's real good too, right?
Oh, I don't know. What do you do with
All right. Well, what you should, if you have flu in your house or you suspect you may have coronavirus, do everybody a favor. You have Ziploc bags, stuff these tissues in them. Oh, keep it open. Put it in the microwave with a little water. Before the water boils, take it out. It'll get to 170 degrees, kills the virus. Or put it better even in the oven. If you have an oven, that's even best, because that oven, you can turn it to 175, and you put Ziploc bags with all that stuff in it, and they'll be sterilized in a matter of just 2 minutes or so, and then you can dispose of them safely. Seal it up and throw them away, and that works. The other thing you can do is your food. If you cook any of your vegetables and everything now, microwave them till they're really hot and steamy, and if there's any virus on them. So what do you do?
Chefs are going to dislike that advice, but it's good advice.
Of course. I'm saying if you have the flu in your home and you don't know whether it's coronavirus or flu, make sure all your food is well cooked.
Right.
If it goes up over 170 degrees, it's dead. Okay? So forget about, rare meat right now and stuff like that, and fast food restaurants and things like that. I just wouldn't do it. I'd rather eat at home until this is over. It should not last that much longer. A natural virus infection like this. Look at what happens with flu, and where you'll see it spikes in a certain area, it goes away, goes somewhere else. It's where it spreads that keeps it going. All right. So if we can stop the spread a little, that would be a great help. So
Judyth,
remember
what about all these people that are saying this is going to be the lifelong pandemic and everything? You've just told us you think it's going to be over soon. What do you think about that?
Well, if it's natural, it should wipe itself out because it simply will run out of accessible hosts. It only lasts about 72 hours alive outside of the body. So obviously, if people don't intermingle very much for a while in their area, it won't spread anymore in that area. And then if it doesn't show up anywhere else. So, but if it's not, if this is a biological weapon, we'll know pretty soon because it will be everywhere. And we can't, and if it doesn't, if the incidence, the percentage of reports keeps going up and right now it's on a pretty high level. It's almost abnormally high. It's higher than SARS ever went, ever. in
Right.
the rapidity of its spread. It's acting like a bioweapon, so I'm concerned. I'm interested. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it's acting like one right now. Just on the how fast it's spreading, we'll just see what happens.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
Bill Gates said something about it being for some reason it doesn't seem to want me to show it to people, but Bill Gates said something about this being the once in a lifetime pandemic that everybody's afraid of. I mean, if it's a bioweapon that he funded, maybe he knows something.
Well, one thing I do know, it has all the earmarks of having been laboratory bred, despite what they're saying. Simply, the simple fact is that we know they were working with coronavirus in the factory, the only bioweapon facility. Also in our country, also in several others, it's all over the place. They've been playing with it. And when you're playing with fire, fires can catch. That's the bottom line.
Well, Judyth, it's been a fascinating presentation, and I always really enjoy our conversations and enjoy speaking with you. Is there anything else you wanted to share with people today before we wrap it up?
Well, there's Dr. Strangelove. You had this character in there who said, "My precious bodily fluids," and you didn't want them to be upset, or changed or handled. Your precious bodily fluids, try and keep them to yourself. If you are exhibiting any symptoms and signs, don't eat it. If you have a flu, please just don't go to restaurants, don't go to public places. Quarantine yourself. Don't wait for the government to try to do it, because they're not very good at it, obviously. Right. And the other, we need to do something about our hospitals, reintroducing black light, germicidal lamps in there, and truly cleaning up. They need to be inspected for what they really are. They need to be looked at under black light. They need to be cleaned up, because right now they're at a medieval level as far as infectious potential goes. And I would never lower myself to go into most hospitals, not the way they are. It's right. Dangerous. That's where the danger is. You don't want to be in a hospital with the coronavirus. You're more likely to die there than if you're in your own home, in my opinion. And it's a humble opinion. I could be wrong.
Right. And we should also add, you're not a medical doctor. This is your own independent research, not intended to be medical advice for anybody. Just some anecdotal suggestions from a concerned citizen. We've got some people.
I will object to that to some extent. I've been working for years now with people asking me information. I've gone to many doctors and gotten a lot of information, but always consult your own doctor. Don't take it from you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't just look online either. Right. You have to be very, very careful. Yes. We were talking about phosphatidylcholine and the lecithin, and it's recommended, how important that is and how it lowers cholesterol. But hey, if you have the flu, don't you use it. And where are you going to find that? They don't communicate properly, even to doctors, some of the stuff that's going on. And I am not a certified doctor or anything like that, but you know what? I was stopped from being a doctor, but that didn't stop me from caring.
Absolutely. And I certainly meant no offense, Judyth. I was just trying to give you a broad-reaching and general disclaimer there for the comments that we've made today.
It has to be. And for everybody listening, don't take just my word for it. You go and keep asking around. And you're going to use your common gut sense, common sense. Pretend you have the measles or you have the mumps. What are you going to go and spread that around to everybody? Act like it's that. Yeah.
One last question here. Someone's asking about L-lysine, I guess.
Okay, L-lysine is a good way to help repair some of your body's defenses and everything. Lysine is excellent to help boost your immune system. Here's one of the problems with your immune system. People are boosting their immune system to such an extent, however, that they're getting problems. You can look that up fast online, is having overactive immune system, like the people who have psoriasis, for example. And the overactive immune system you start attacking your own body, your own joints. You mustn't overactivate your immune system, because you can start eating up your own tissues. putting everything on a simplified level. But
Sure.
most of the arthritis and everything, overactive, see? Look at that, normally. Allergies and overactive immune system, look it up. Be careful how much you stimulate. You don't want to do it all the time. When you have a bad disease, like or possibility here of coronavirus, go ahead and do it. Don't do it all the time. So you talk about hot peppers, red peppers, all the pepper family, the nightshade family, where you have capsicum and so on. All these rev up your immune system, but the problem is it can overdo it. Most people who have allergies, most people who have gout, or they have there are others problems they may have, like arthritis, or they have scarlatina, they've had scarlet fever, or they have various, especially allergies or psoriasis. For heaven's sakes, make sure that you cook these things somewhat. The tomatoes, the green peppers, the red peppers, the chili peppers, the Mexican chilies, and so on. Make sure they're cooked to cut back on some of this stimulation of your immune system to an extent where if you're getting pains in your joints and things like that, you're getting breakouts, you don't know what's the matter with your skin, you don't know why you're having difficulties with allergies, you can't breathe or something. It can actually be from those things that you're using to stimulate your immune system too far. Okay.
Well, Judyth, it's been excellent speaking with you. A lot of good information for people to think about, and lots of insights about the coronavirus and the history of biological weapons research in the United States under the CIA. People who want to learn more about you can purchase your book, Me and Lee, and they can get it. Yeah, they can get it from Amazon.com. It's a fascinating book. There's a new edition that's going to be coming out soon, and very soon you're going to have an announcement about your November Dallas JFK conference. It's a fantastic event, great place for people to go to meet some of the firsthand witnesses to history who are actually national treasures. I'm talking about you, Judyth, of course, and some of the other people who come to the conference. So thank you so much for everything you've been doing.
Well, you've been wonderful. God bless you. Oh, by the way, there's another book, David Vary, Mafia Pilot. Yes. David, that book has more updated. It also has information because he was involved in this biological weapon development as well. And a lot of people have learned things. It's, of course, a lot of it has to do with New Orleans, but there you'll see the tragic results of being involved. You understand that almost everyone I was with, they were murdered. And really? It wasn't easy to speak out. I've lost contact with my family. I've lost my position teaching at university. I've lost a lot. I'm grateful for those some people give me donations. I don't ask for them, but I'm grateful when they come by, because it's my life basically was destroyed by speaking out.
So sorry for you, Judyth. And you are very brave. So there's actually another book that people should purchase about David Vary. You've become a prolific author, co-writing this one with Jesse Ventura. So that's a really excellent resource for people to purchase from Amazon or elsewhere. And Judyth, we'll definitely have you back. It's always excellent to have you on. I'm certainly fascinated by the story that you've told. And I wish I could see some of these 3D photographs taken by Lee Harvey Oswald. Nobody knows where they are.
Well, it's interesting that the 300 photographs that the Paynes had that actually could have been made with that backyard photo camera, all right? Mm-hmm. Somehow they all vanished and got stolen, according to the Paynes.
She's still alive, isn't she?
She is. He died a couple of years ago. Interestingly enough, we don't have any photographs made by Lee Oswald with any of his cameras. Do you think that really, when George de Mohrenschildt talked about the beautiful photos he had made, suddenly they're all gone? Why? They were made with cameras that made excellent photos. Why would he have ever used a crummy camera?
That Imperial.
Yeah, imperial reflex.
Plastic,
Yeah.
white body, not good. One last question from our viewers, Judyth. Monty is
Yes.
asking, I think I already know the answer, but why did you move to Sweden?
I had death threats to such an extent after speaking out. I moved it actually a number of times. I was in 3 accidents. Some of them have been well documented. I complained about being followed by this white van. It finally smashed me from behind. I ended up in the hospital. Once, this is documented too, I actually got a call in the morning, at 5:30 in the morning, saying, "Do you want to have another accident?" And told me to take my book. It was at a publisher. I pulled it right away. I sent immediately emails to everybody saying I was afraid to go to school. I was teaching and to work. And they all said, "Don't be paranoid." So I went, and that night I ended up in the hospital again. I have all the documents and show that I got hit again by a black van, forced another car against me. And that car, they tried to say that it never happened. Geico was thrilled because maybe they wouldn't have to pay me. But I have the photographs, and Geico did too. You can see the black paint on that car, So, they linked that to black vans, so they knew I was telling the truth. Because the paint, goes to particular cars and vans. They were able to link that.
Yeah.
And then one time I had one more. I have more, but so I was getting ready to move overseas. I'd been hit by vehicles before and after being filmed for the History Channel in 2003. So I was preparing to go overseas when I got a problem again. And that problem, by the way, that's now Newsmax is now showing that sequence 7, 8, and 9 from the men who killed Kennedy. They're showing it from time to time. It's finally been released after being banned for 15 years. So that's good news. It's getting out there.
Absolutely.
So what I'm trying to say about this last incident, so I go out and I pump and there's no brake, and bam, a car smashes to me on the passenger side. And the police, reckless driving for me, they said. Well, there was a guy there who owned a shop, and he pulled it right into shop. It was not even half a block from there. So the next morning, I could still drive the car because it's smashed only on one side, and I'm desperate not to lose my job, And I get in again, and by the way, he bawled me out. He said, "Lady, you just don't know anything about cars." He said, "That master cylinder was empty." I said, "I had 3 sons. I helped them rebuild motors. I built my first TV set when I was 8 years old. Wow. I know all about cars and things like that." And he just thought I was just a woman who didn't know anything. So I get in the car and bam, I hit somebody again. This time it's a Cadillac. And they haul me right into court because it's 2 accidents in a row. Okay. And he followed me there and he said, "Listen, I put that lubricant in myself, the fluid, brake fluid. And I got underneath, her brake line had been cut. So I was safe from that." So those are 3 incidents I'm talking about. I had so many death threats. I had break-ins and things stolen. Many bad things happened. And so I moved overseas, and mostly between then and now, I spend as much time as I can overseas, because overseas I don't have a problem.
Wow.
Every time I come here, something awful happens. It's usually my computers get ruined and other things. This is my new computer. The other one got completely destroyed by viruses just a few weeks ago.
Well,
Without
let's hope
you guys helping me, I don't know what happened to me if it weren't for all of you keeping my name and face alive here, so that I'm not in so much danger when I'm here. Thank you.
Absolutely. And people are going to purchase the book, Judyth, and then I'm sure people will come and see you in Dallas this November 22nd, when the event will be happening. And we'll keep people informed about that.
Yeah, the 22nd is a Sunday. We'll also have it, of course, on the Saturday, the 21st. We'll have it on the Friday. And because so many people are coming, we've had to expand it to 4 days.
Wow.
So
It's been a very popular event.
22.
We'll have you back before then to give people some more information about the event. Stay safe and best of luck to you and your family and everybody who's watching. We're going to keep our eyes on this coronavirus and try to figure out what's going on with that.
Well, God bless you all, and may you stay safe, and see you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Judyth, and have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching. Don't miss Unseen Libya with Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty coming up later tonight. See everybody later.